Hey, thanks for having me. I mean, I just got to finish my breakfast real quick because I had a little more.
Oh,
I want to thank
nice.
you for this. I want to thank you especially for this.
Oh,
It's
nice.
like Michael Jordan, you watched The Last Dance, right?
Of course. Great.
You
Great.
gotta love. And like, there's all these videos because I go on the YouTube rabbit hole and there's all these videos of Michael Jordan saying, I took that personal. So like, it is pretty epic that right after you made that video, which really just shows, the streak. I don't even think, because I watched the clip, I didn't think it was, you were like shitting on me. It was just the fucking weird, epic run.
Yeah, I think moving forward with just like the way that we talk to each other and stuff, I think we just got to shoot it straight. If something happens and we want to talk about it, we shoot it straight.
Because I wanted to win the match. Like, obviously for both of us, I'm assuming for you too, like the results financially were not going to change my life either way. For me, well, for me, I was okay either way. And so, like, for me, it was like, it was like, it's almost like it's a hockey analogy where what gives me the best chance to win? If I'm down 3-0 in the third period, right, and there's 15 minutes left, pull the fucking goalie. Just pull the goalie and go YOLO. So I was trying to think of ways that would increase variance so that I could, like, give myself a better chance to win. That was it. Like, what is the best way to win? What gives me the highest percentage chance to win? And it was certainly on turns to get it in spots where either you fold or I get it in, 35, 40% equity for heaps, where all of a sudden, if we get 2.5 buy-ins each, that can, basically, depending on a little bit of luck.
Everyone goes through bad beats. Why are you so expressive and vocal? I think some people get kind of tilted when they read that.
So part of it was like, I was just tweeting my result, right? Like how I busted. And it was just like, it happened to be like that every time, but I get it. Everyone's like, okay, enough. Because it's like, do you ever have good luck? And I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking kidding. Like the last 7 all-ins, like, I'm not joking. Like, part of it, I guess, is like, when people do that, like, why would they do that, right? Part of it is like, deep down, there's part of their ego that's saying, listen, I'm actually good. I don't suck. Look at how I lost. Like when Alan Kessler does it, look at this. I think that's part of it. It's obviously a bad practice, but like, as I'm fucking doing it, I'm just raging. And sometimes I believe like that, and this is something Phil Hellmuth, I think, gets right to a certain degree. We're all emotional, right? He vents in the moment. He lets it all out. This fucking idiot from Northern Europe and blah, 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 blah. I think if you deal with it in the moment, like I did with our matches when I would have my epic rants that are like NFT worthy at this point. Like, I just want to get it out, right? So I get out all the steam, I get it all venting. And then when I'm done with it, I'm like, all right, let's get back in the lab. Let's go over the hands. Let's take a look at the things that I can control. Like, where did I make mistakes? Oh, this was a bluff catcher I should have called you with. This was one that was probably, over, and then, go over the stuff like that and then be ready the next day. Like, I allow myself to deal with it in the moment. So maybe tweeting the bad beats is like part of that venting process that I understand that the average person is like, oh, enough, click unfollow.
Imagine if everyone did that, though. Just imagine what Twitter would look like. It just seems kind of hard to get that much of an edge. Why were you so confident at the -150?
Well, I was especially confident in the first one, right? Like the first one, I felt like I would have the biggest edge because he wouldn't know what I was going to do to him, right? So as you know, like when it comes to game theory, right? If somebody underbluffs at all, even a little bit, if you just fold every single time, you're printing EV, like 100%. And there's no question that going into the match, we all knew Phil way underbluffs in all these significant spots on turn and river, right? So I felt like I was going to massively exploit that, and I did in the first match by overfolding like crazy.
You posted your win rate, right? It was 20 big blinds per 100 or something? Okay.
It was 20 big blinds per 100 in both, actually, the first 2 matches. I didn't do the third one because I'm over it. But yeah, so I was going to massively overfold. So I felt like my edge in that one was big. And it really worked exactly as I said. Like, I grinded him all the way to a 97-3 lead without really any significant risk at all. It was just an easy glide, right? Then going into the second match, I assumed he's going to make adjustments. One of those adjustments had to be more aggression. What I expected him to do was up his aggression pre-flop with his, like, he does this thing where his 3-betting range is like, aces, kings, queens, ace, king, or 10-6 offsuit, king 3 off. Like, he does not 3-bet jacks, 10s. He doesn't 3-bet jacks, 10s, 9s. He does not 3-bet pocket pairs. He does not 3-bet very often with like a 9-10 suited hands that play well post. It's about as polar as possible, right? So I expected him to up his aggression there. What I didn't expect him to do, which I give him credit for, was with his sizing on turn and river, be bluffing at all, right? But he started to bluff there in some spots. He made one really crazy bluff in the second match.
The ace jack suited hand when you had ace queen, So look, like he might just be clicking buttons, but do you worry about live tells when someone limps ace jack suited and you raise ace queen and they fold? Do you worry that he has a read on you, or are you not worried about that at all?
Well, you would, right? You would if you saw that consistently, right? But when you see, like when he's three betting you, when you have tens and jacks and ace king, and he's like three betting, like I think a lot of it is guessing for the most part. Like I'm sure, like you have some sort of feel. I don't think I had plenty of reads on him, like in the 2-9s hand. When he three bet me, I was quite certain that he was doing his zoom thing. So I had several reads. Mostly I had specific reads on like on the turn, like or when he was super strong, right? Like very significant, clear slam dunk reads that are 100% take him to the bank. So yeah, I mean that's something to be concerned with to a certain degree. But I think it's one of those spots where like if it happens once, you're like okay, well whatever. But if he's like I mean if you were playing online and a guy's like on the river, always calls you when you're bluffing and always folds when you have it, you go, wait a minute, So it's all about sample. And I think over the longer period, there was no consistency in it. Sometimes he was folding the best hand, sometimes he wasn't. But like when he does the one time correctly, it's like, wow, what magic. Oh my God, what a fold.
I remember a hand on Poker After Dark where they're doing a sit and go, and I want to say he limp folded queens on some epic amount of blinds. Was it 5 blinds or something? I
think part of why he does that, I really do believe that, because it's like a small thing. It's not that big a deal. It's obviously a mistake, right? But it's not that huge. But it's like if he's right, oh my God, he can make the internet explode, and he can use that as sort of a tool to be like, look at my reading ability. You know what I mean? And like, it's like, yeah, I think that's a thing. Like when he laid down, he limp folded like King Jack and Antonio had King Queen. It's like, who does that? I'm like, well, just you, Phil.
What makes Phil Hellmuth so much better at poker than you?
I will say this about Phil, right? One thing about Phil is he tries really, really hard. Like he's always intensely like involved and like he cares so much. Like he emotionally feels everything. So if the match isn't going his way, you see it on his face, you see it in his energy. And he will go to this other gear to try something different if it's not working, right? So he's obviously not somebody that is playing anywhere near what like would be considered, game theory optimal or whatever. He does his own thing, which is completely exploitative. I remember the first time I told him that, because I said I was like, you play exploitative, and he's like, no. He's like, he literally said this. We were about to do the commentary on the break desk, and I couldn't stop laughing. He told me he invented GTO. And I explained to him, I was like, no, Phil, this isn't an insult. It's not an insult. What I'm saying to you, you're very good exploitative player and have been, and you take advantage of that. But you don't play GTO. That's, the robot thing. And he's like, no, I invented it. I was like, okay, well, yeah, no, I don't think so. Some of his exploits, especially against weaker players, I think can be very, very effective in tournament formats. Like deep stack, none of his stuff really works. It's just punting. It's just really bad to be limping 500 big blinds deep every hand. That's not a thing.
There's one last hand we got to talk about. I mean, it's the most talked about hand, I think, of this match, which is the pocket twos versus 8-3 suited hand. I want to recap the action for everyone so we're all on the same page. The hand goes as follows: 260 approximate blinds deep, so quite deep. Daniel opens deuces to 1,500. Hellmuth 3-bets 8-3 of clubs to 4,800, a kind of small 3-bet size. Daniel 4-bets to 13,000, standard 4-bet size. Hellmuth now comes in over the top with his 8-3 suited because one re-raise pre-flop isn't enough and makes it 35,000. All right. The big one I think is 600. So that's approximately a 60 big blind 5-bet here pre-flop. Daniel calls with pocket twos. Jack 10-6 rainbow. Hellmuth checks. Daniel bets 21K into 70. Hellmuth check calls the 8 high nothing on Jack 10-6 rainbow. Turn is the 6 of clubs, giving Hellmuth a backdoor flush draw, and he now leads 42K and 112K, and Daniel folds. So a lot of things to talk about with this hand, Daniel. I want to get the action here out of the way. What are your thoughts on pre-flop in this hand? What's your thinking? I'm actually most interested in why you decided to use deuces as a 4-bet here, because that's a pretty non-standard 4-bet. And then what are your thoughts on the 5-bet in the situation just in general?
Yeah, so the deuces, right? Obviously, you're right. Like, no chart's going to show you that, deuces is a 4-bet there. But part of why I give deuces more value is because so he's 3-betting a ton of trash. Like a big part of his rage is composed of just bluffs, like complete nothing. And then the rest is, like I said, ace, king, aces, kings, or whatever. What it doesn't have any of is any pocket pairs in between them, right? So like with deuces, I should in theory get 8-3 of clubs to fold. So I pick up a nice little chunk, right?
That's what you would think.
Right. And then like, he's not going to 5-bet me with ace queen. He's probably not going to do it with ace king that deep based on what I know of how he plays. He's flatting with all those hands that I beat anyway. So I don't expect it. We hadn't had a 5-bet the entire match. So I wasn't worried about that. Part of what I decided I was going to do was going into the third match was I was going to expand my 4-betting range because he was 3-betting with all this garbage and this trash a lot more. And I felt like deuces was a decent candidate that plays pretty well post flop that deep. And because again, I can discount all the pairs, threes through jacks for the most part. So I felt like it was okay. And then when he 5-bets, I'm like, oh, fuck. I didn't see that coming. But I was like, all right, we're still way deep enough that I feel like in position, I can go ahead and call getting the price that I was. Then on the flop, he checks. And again, like, I don't think he's 5-betting with jacks or tens. So I can discount like him flopping a set. And I felt like in past hands or, and this is me doing the thing, right? Like, well, he's seen me do this. Like I've checked back in these spots quite a decent amount. And I think I think he's perceiving my range that calls the 5-bet as very strong or quite strong. That usually going to hit a flop that coordinated. So if I bet it, in theory, I should get his air to fold, right? And if not, we can see how it develops. Now he calls. On the turn, he leads the 6. Here's the weird thing of the turn. He bets 42K, right? I am very, very strongly feeling like my deuces are good. That's why I use the time bank. Like I took extra time. Part of the problem is I laid minus 150 in this match, right? So I'm thinking, all right, I think he has just turned a flush draw. And I think I said it like shortly after with maybe a gut shot or something along those lines. The problem is if I jam, he's actually priced in to call and he can hit a 3, a jack, a 3, an 8, a jack, a 10, or a club. So like, I'm not in great shape there, right? If I had a 10 or a jack, there's zero universe where I was folding either of them. I wasn't folding either one of those things. But because deuces was so vulnerable after using a time bank, I'm like, okay, well, this sucks. I'm quite certain he's bluffing, but I wonder what he would have done though. If he bet 42K and had like 60 back, like, was he planning on just going YOLO call? I think he folds it actually.
Yeah, I think he probably folds it. Ask him why in his masterclass promo, he says, you can't be all loosey-goosey eating a sandwich at the table. But in his own kid poker documentary, there was a 5-minute sequence about his mother making him sandwiches to take with him to the tables. What happened there?
So it's important to point out, when was that video taken? Many, many years ago. Part of my learning process in creating a masterclass was looking back and saying, you know what? I was eating a sandwich all loosey-goosey on high stakes poker. And guess what? The results were not good. So as part of the evolution of modern poker theory, I deduced that it was important for the future generation to understand, do not be all loosey-goosey eating a sandwich at the table. So there you go. You saw a bad habit that was corrected. And now you won't see me loosey-goosey on the table eating a sandwich anymore. Turkey likes the drama. So he'll find the drama.
You don't say.
Like I remember we were having a conversation privately, about like, what was it? Something.
Oh, I remember this. I told
tracking, like you manually tracking frequencies.
I told you and you told Bill.
Well, we had the conversation as a group. Yeah.
And then Bill tweeted about it. And I was like, what the fuck, man? I just told you this in private. And then I just see Bill Perkins tweeting about it 2 hours later.
Hey, he's the Twitter bomb guy, which like, he always tweets shit like, what I'm about to share is the most outrageous thing ever, and then you're like, everyone's like, ooh, pins and needles. What is it? And then you're like, that doesn't seem like it was that big a deal.
He gets himself into trouble with that though sometimes because he had the tweet where he said, this is the biggest cheating scandal. It's bigger than Mike Postle.
I know that.
And then it came out, it was someone playing on someone else's screen name. And it was like, Bill, look, it's not something that someone should be doing, but Mike Postle stared at his crotch for 2 years and won $250,000 off of people at 2.5. I think we got to put these in perspective.